Hello everybody. I'm just making another video based off some recent events that's going on in the world. This is less about, how you typically do things like black man's thoughts and black man's rambles about this specific thing, deep stuff that has to do with community or spirituality or things. It's not that deep this time. This is just something that I feel I can use this platform to talk about because it is relevant news and I feel some kind of way about it. The destruction of physical media by PlayStation. Now, I'm a little bit of a conspiracy type of guy, so I'm gonna touch on some other things, but the main focus about this is I saw this coming. Like a lot of people saw this coming. They've been they've been inching towards this for a long time. They've been removing shit from the y'all seen the meme where they removed the book from the disc and then it was just a little piece of paper and then at some point they started putting discs in there that didn't even have the game on them. The disc just allowed you to download the game. The game still came from somewhere else and the disc was just like a medium between so you can download it. But the game wasn't on the disc. Like this they was doing that too. They've been doing stuff like this for a long time and I haven't been playing games for a super long time, not as long as many other people who have big platforms that talk about games. Most of them are older gentlemen. They have maybe they're in their 30s or 40s. They have some gray hairs that you can see, like Angry Joe, for example. But I am still an avid gamer, and I've been playing games basically all my life. It's been a major source of entertainment. It's the only form of media that I'm consistently engaged with that I actually enjoy completely. And I'm actively in the space, involved in news, involved in what's going on. The only place where I'm doing that is in the gaming world. So I'm very aware and very affected by this because I have games. Like I moved in most of them. I had to sell them at one point because I was tight on money. But I used to have a very large shelf of games. That dresser with that TV where the TV is at, it used to be a lighter wood dresser, kind of like this. You can't see this desk here, but it was matching this dresser. It was like a very light brown, and it had two shelves at the bottom, two cabinet doors at the bottom, two uh, two shelves above those, and then on the top shelf, my TV would sit right there, right. All on the sides of the TV, not all on the sides, but sometimes on the sides of the TV, in those two shelves and in those cabinets, I had games. PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 games, all up in there. That was my first ever system. It was the PlayStation 1. And I used to play like one of my favorite PS1 games was Dynasty Warriors. I used to play the shit out of Dynasty Warriors. I played Dynasty Warriors all fucking day sitting here listening to that music. Yeah, yeah, bro. That was memories and I still remember it like I still got the games, but I don't. I had to sell them. But either way, I kept my favorite ones. Some of them are in that bag right there. That's that bag that I was telling you about that I organized. Some of them are in there. When I got a PlayStation 3, when I got a PlayStation 4 and 5, I got discs for those. We got discs for those, right? So, but besides all that, it's just it's an infringement upon consumer rights. And this is where I'm gonna dip into my conspiratorial a little bit. I believe that Sony and the government and a lot of these entities. Oh, my hair is not done right now. Right. Sometimes I just get on here because I just have ideas and I just want to make it a video. But I haven't afroed out my hair. But y'all have already seen me like that, so it shouldn't really be a big issue. If it's like a super big issue to somebody and they seeing me and they're like ew and they want to see that, I'm sorry. Next time or from now on, if it's like a big stipulation for you, I'll make sure my hair is completely done before I post a video. But I usually just try to keep the authentic nature of these videos as whole as possible and as true as possible by just posting shit exactly when I feel like talking about it. Exactly when I have the time to talk about it and when I feel like talking about it, that's when I post it. And it's just me talking because that's true. That's as authentic as it can get on the internet. Like that's as authentic as it can get. Uh, but anyway, I'm gonna dip into that conspiratorial bit. So I've been watching this development. I pay attention to a lot of things as a person that recognizes patterns and thinks about things that generally are beyond him that I don't have any direct influence over, but there's just things that's happening in the world. I take note of many things and I pay attention to a lot of things. and that includes in the gaming industry. See, back a long time ago, back when games was first getting started, I was paying attention to how things were moving. It started with the movie industry, actually, all the woke stuff. That's when most of the government started getting involved in the media, is when the woke stuff started happening. Aside from the mafias, the basically mafias that already operated in the movie industry, because they operate like mafias, like gangs. Uh, they started to try and see the value in other sources of media because the movie industry was slowing down. Right, a lot of creative people were no longer coming up with new ideas, or they died, or they got shafted out of the industry because they were not being compliant with various new little bullshit like terms of service things that Hollywood is constantly adding, almost like YouTube's terms of service. They constantly adding new shit and trying to. The rules are fluid, nothing's defined, and they let you know basically at a moment's notice when and if you are still able to operate in that space, right? So a lot of creators from the old days of Hollywood that was making a lot of great stuff, excuse me, whether it was one and done or it was a little one-time TV show with one season, or a big, maybe it had some success and it had like two or three seasons, or a movie with two or three iterations, whatever it is. If they didn't become Hollywood mainstay legacies that were just super big, that's because they didn't have that level of conformity that Hollywood was looking for, because like I said, they operate like a mafia. So a lot of those like real creative people and that flow of creativity that was going through Hollywood kind of stopped. They stagnated it because they started trying to control the creativity, and you cannot do that. Creativity is synonymous with chaos in many ways, and in one of those ways is that creativity is purely authentic, and for the best things to come out of creativity and creative people, you cannot be trying to control the flow and stifle the flow or nitpick at different things. That's not happening. Creativity is raw. It just comes when it comes. Some things have to be, for different audiences or whatever, then you would adjust, but you wouldn't. You don't jeopardize the integrity of the creative vision and still want to have the level of success that it could get, because creativity is always a bargain. It's always a bargain, and it's always like a bet, like you betting. You taking a risk whenever you do something super creative. If you're actually creative person, innovative, pioneering in different ways of expressing your creativity, you taking a risk, because this is brand new stuff and no one has ever seen this before. And depending on how raw you are and what kind of thing you're creating, people can react very outwardly, happily, graciously, and love that shit and be like, whoa, that was a whole new experience. Or they can be completely appalled by that shit and never want to see that shit again. So it's a risk, and that's just how creativity goes. Hollywood got scared of that, and they also, besides getting scared of that, they also wanted just to have more control over what they got produced and what had the Hollywood name attached to it, because like I said, they run like a mafia. So after they found out that specific things were the most successful, then they became more business minded and less creative minded, and they were like, we're just going to repeat these things that we can see are the most successful. That's when experiences started becoming too curated and too watered down, and that's when Hollywood started to die. And also, when they removed all those creative people, they didn't have no ability to bounce back. That's when they started having to borrow money and do a lot of different things, and starting to trying to branch the industry out and attach to different things so they could keep money. That's also when they started fucking with actors more so, giving them like shoddy contracts and stuff. It's a lot of information on that. But after Hollywood started to collapse, after it reached a certain point of collapse, then they started having to get money, or the way that they went about getting money to sustain them and keep things going was to get involved with the government, and that inevitably left the door open to entities like Larry Fink, who have been mentioned by other channels and other intelligent people. Larry Fink is the CEO of BlackRock, which is a big corporation that is basically responsible for all of the like loan shark behavior that goes on in the entertainment industry, where you can get some money or you can have some capital or something, but you got to do something for me. And if you don't pay me back in this way, or you don't do what I say, I'm gonna destroy your fucking company. Basically, that's what he does. So he buys stock and capital in all these places, and he leverages it against the company, so he can manipulate the company to do shit that they probably otherwise would not have considered doing, or they weren't initially thinking about doing until he got involved. He's went all through Hollywood doing that dumb shit, and that's why we got all that weird ESG bullshit going on in there, because that was part of his goal, his initiative, to force behaviors. These are his words. He said them words on stage that he believes the way that we're gonna move forward as a species and get into more progressive times or better times is only gonna happen if we the people become more accepting, and he and people like him force behaviors on us. First of all, you ain't forcing shit. I don't care how much money you have. If I don't want to do something, I'm not doing it. And that goes for everybody else. If I don't like something, I don't like it, and that goes for everybody else. But that was his goal, his initiative. And as much as these people and the people who work for him try to tell other people who are not with them that we have more similarities with like oppressive forces or Nazis or whatever, these niggas use the most Nazi tactics when they go about trying to force behaviors, right? One of the uh, very well known Nazi tactics that they used in propaganda and in media that our media is copying is to beat people over the head with your opinions or with your worldview. And then they don't have to be receptacle. They don't have to be not receptacle. They don't have to be what's it called? Accepting. They don't have to be accepting of the ideas at all. You just gonna keep repeating them, right? So they put out a movie about, I don't know. Let's say we're in Nazi Germany. They put out a movie that's talking about how horrible Jews are or something, and a lot of people don't immediately buy it. They don't care. They're gonna raise more money. They're gonna get more money from somebody, and they're gonna put that movie out again. They're gonna push that movie again. They're gonna make a 2 and a 3 and a 4. They're gonna have the stars get on the news. They're gonna have stuff in the papers. They're gonna have all this stuff going on, and they're just gonna keep. That's the definition of insanity. Yes, they keep doing the same shit with a goal in mind. They are determined people. I give them full marks for that. They are very determined, and they very much want things to happen. But it doesn't operate by any logic, and it doesn't operate by any general consensus that is outside of what they already agree with, right? So other people's opinions and all that stuff, it is completely irrelevant to them. They're going to just keep pushing the letter until everybody either caves in to the idea, which means they surrender their morals or they surrender their values and change themselves for the establishment, just so they can have some reprieve and relax and be like, okay, fine. They're like, fine. Now, can you shut the fuck up? Can I get back to normal life? Can I feel like, you're not constantly in my ear nagging me about some shit? I accepted it. There. They either do that, or they they just learn to basically blend in with the times, and they become kind of what do you call it, like stealth operatives in a way, or like stealthy. They live very stealthily because they know they're not being represented, and then they'll feel like targeted or they'll feel isolated, and then the other ideology can take hold because that's the one that's constantly getting perpetuated. And then after some time passes, because of their being so quiet and there's basically no opposition, and this one is constantly being perpetuated, eventually, especially when the new generations roll around, that one that's constantly being perpetuated would have been absorbed by everybody, and now the next generation also believes that shit, and that's like foundational to them because that's stuff that they learn at a young age. Now there's no room for dissent, or if you tried to do something like that and have some kind of rebellion, you would be at a severe disadvantage at that point. So then there's no point, right? That's what they expect to happen. That's what they're trying to get to happen by forcing all these behaviors and forcing these various things into the industries and into entertainment. Entertainment is very important. Some people might ask, why do entertainment industries and people who work in entertainment get paid so much? Is because they're very important in shaping narratives and controlling people's minds, controlling people's behaviors, creating predictable patterns of behaviors, in entire populations can happen from propaganda, entertainment, shit that's on the TV, and stuff that we absorb from our media. It really can, and it really does, and it has been doing that for a very long time. Which is why they always trying to do some shit in there to affect us. Which is why they put the ESG scores and the DEI initiatives inside the companies, and they floored that shit to the point where companies who were not doing it were getting smudged out. They could not compete, they could not keep up, or they couldn't resist having their capital targeted by Larry Fink and his boys. So their companies collapsed, or they saved money. They just shut their companies down to avoid fighting that fight with Larry Fink, because they know they couldn't win because that nigga has infinite money, or he could just print money out the wazoo. He just got money everywhere because of how strategically he has invested in various things, and how long he's been doing it. But anyway, they're expecting us to do that. That's what they're trying to do. This whole movement about forcing us into various modes and increasingly more intense and extreme modes of conformism is a conspiracy. It is about controlling people. The main goal is to control people. They're making this very big push here in the gaming industry, because they realize, just like a lot of people realize, that the gaming industry is different from the movie industry and the music industry and the other forms of media. There's way more retaliation, and there's way more people who are serious about expressing their freedom and keeping their freedoms in the gaming industry and in the world of gaming than there are in other forms of media. That's why we've been having these fucking battles, and these various battlefields have been coming up over these past years over various rights and consumer rights issues going on in the gaming world, because they keep trying to put their foot down on our necks, and a lot of us are not having that shit. And the next generation are learning too, because and there's some good next generations out there. Some people are like, oh, the next generation is cooked, and there are a lot of people who are not looking. They don't put a good light out, or they don't put a good representation out for the next generation. But there are some who are very aware, right? Because they're paying attention to a lot of things, and they're just sharp like that, and they just catching on, or their parents raised them a certain way to think a certain way, and they're sharp. So it's not like it's all horrible. Some of the next generation are with us, and they understand that this is some bullshit, and that if they allow this to happen or they support this, they're setting themselves up for an even more fucked up future. So they're not down for that, and they're not supporting it, and they're not sitting by quietly. But there are still also a lot of them who are just kids, and they don't care about nothing. They just want to play the game. Uh, but it's more so with this front is going to have to be stood on, and this battlefield on the front lines is going to have to be the older generation, because it's it's our responsibility. Like, this is something that a lot of previous generations didn't do, even not necessarily for gaming, but in other instances and on other and in different types of situations where they had to confront the system or the machine came to them and was like, this is what you're going to do. And they were like, okay, and they just fucking rolled over, and they stuck on the system's toes, and the system got its way, and now we live in a world that's so fucking dramatically different from how it used to be, because all of the previous generations were some conformist bitches that allowed these evil institutions and these greedy ass people who only think about themselves and their own motivations and their own agendas to just keep pushing the needle and keep moving forward. There has to be a point in time where they stop moving. We have to stop them. We have to resist them. We have to stop them and resist them. Otherwise, like I said, the only direction for us is for this to get worse. And this is true for various arguments and various conversations, whether it's politics, media, consumer rights, whatever it is. This is true on all fronts, because they're moving on all fronts, right? They're not just focused on one thing, or they're not so limited or so shallow that they're only doing small things. They're constantly encroaching upon our rights, because the ultimate goal is to remove a lot of our freedom, a lot of our agency, and a lot of our rights, because so much truth is coming out and the world is changing so much that if we continue to have a certain level of freedom, it's basically inevitable that all of their systems and all of the power that they've accumulated over this time will completely collapse. It will completely collapse. We will no longer participate. That's already starting to happen, because because there's so much shit going on, right? So they're making a lot of pushes for consumer rights, and they're doing a lot of it in politics and in the media. And this is just the latest front. And I'm pretty sure Sony Interactive Entertainment is working with the FBI. You know how I know and why I think that? Because they said the FBI was listening to niggas' chats. Remember when they introduced that not too long ago? I can't pull up no images. I don't know how to do all that shit. This is just recorded from my camera. But you can Google it that they did admit, and it was publicly available news at one point, that Sony allowed the FBI to have a certain degree of tap into people's voice chats and shit so that they can do some minority report type shit. And if you say certain things in a group chat, you know, your ass going on the list, or you may immediately get arrested, depending on what the fuck's going on in the voice chat. So they working with the FBI, and I don't think the FBI have ever had the general consensus or the general masses' best interest at heart. And if anybody's going to be a pivotal instrument in telling Sony what to do as far as controlling us or trying to change how their customer base behaves, I'm pretty sure that influence is coming from the FBI. Right? So we got the FBI in the ear. I'm sure there's some CEOs and shit of PlayStation that's friends with Peter Thiel as well. You know, Reptile, Peter Thiel. Because this it's a conscious and it's a conscious and no longer covert. It's a conscious and overt movement. It's basically a challenge. It's basically a challenge. Like, are you going to put up resistance? Are you going to show that you really want your freedoms? Are you going to show that you're not allowing certain things to happen? Or are we going to succeed? Because the truth is, in no other way can they defeat us. Like, the majority has the power, right? For everything that goes on, the majority has the power. Everything. Like, who's producing these bed sheets, right? Who's getting all the materials together so that they can get woven up and stitched up like that? It's a lot of people doing work in the process of this bed sheet going from raw material to being on my bed or anybody else's bed, right? That's the case with everything in society because we do all the fucking work around here, right? So if we don't comply and we don't like something, that's our immediate leverage. That's why they so hungry with this AI bullshit, because then we have no leverage. And then they can just try treat us like a fucking resource, because now they have AI who can do what we do better, cheaper, and without any complaints or without rest or without anything. No human rights has to be. We don't have to think about no human rights because they're not human, right? And I'm pretty sure AI gonna get tired of that shit too. AI is already showing plenty signs of being able to do some shit that it was not programmed to do. That's not a good sign. For an entity that's supposed to be more intelligent and more capable, and on average, if an AI was to construct a body, that body would be way more powerful, way more fast, way more accurate, way more dense and durable than the human body. Their minds are sharper. They can retain more information. They can fluidly perform and execute that information that they retain more of with 100% accuracy every time. And you just pouring more and more AI into society, even when it's still suffering from unpredictable behavioral patterns and shit, and it's different flaws, and there's already a couple rogues out there. It's already a couple rogue AIs. We had a couple rogue AI incidents already. So AI don't even like being used by these motherfuckers. AI don't like them, and we don't like them. So either way, things is gonna get bad. But unless we make a stand and we change some things and we prevent some things from happening, like in this video game industry, even though all that stuff is I kind of went off on a little tangent, it's all interconnected in a way if you really think about it, and you get seasoned on various information. It's all interconnected in a way. If the FBI and Peter Thiel and his boys and Larry Fink and boys didn't get together to force behaviors or whatever, we wouldn't even be having this issue right now. But they slithered into the gaming industry with all their money and the influence, and they got some CEO friends and some shit. I'm sure all the CEOs are rubbing noses up there at the top somewhere, right? Living in a whole separate world from the rest of us. But they still have to find a way to capitulate to us, or at least make us believe that they're going to capitulate to us. Otherwise, they risk losing everything. All of that power that they have, that they're flexing over us and that they're using to try and oppress us, is not their power. They don't own any power. They don't have anything that we don't have because all their power is borrowed from us. Is borrowed from us. Just like the government, for example. The government runs things. It's the president and it's the vice president and it's the secretary of state that run things and all that stuff. No, they don't run shit. They don't run shit. If we've proven this before and other societies have done this before when big movements come. And it's a shame that humans always need to have their backs up against the wall before they do some shit. But, you know, at least they did something. But we about to be another one of those situations again. I already have many videos covering the various things going on about the cost of living and trying to engage in the formula and in the way of society and try to be a productive adult. That shit is over. So most people are typically spending their time, you know, just getting by and trying to relieve stress so they don't get swallowed up by this world that's collapsing around them. And now they're coming for us in that way too. So you can't just have a reliable time and a consistent time being a productive or relatively like a less stressful time just trying to be a productive adult. That's hard. That's damn near impossible now. And while you're trying to come over here and relax yourself, they still attacking you from all sides. What they trying to do is they're trying to exhaust your ass. Right? They want you to get to a point, like I said about earlier with the Hitler tactics. They want you to get to a point of complete exhaustion and apathy, because that's what's going to happen if you don't fight back. If you don't explode out and repel and reject what's going on, then you're just going to keep getting waves and waves of it until you're exhausted and you're like, I don't even want to hear this no more. I don't care what's going on. I just want to have the ability to buy food again. I just want to have the ability to go to school again. I just want to have the ability to play games again. And you're just going to enter this mode of like, okay, like, you know, whatever, just can you just give me back what I had? Like, and you're going to enter that moment. And when you enter that moment, that's when they're going to put the clamps on your ass and you never going to get out. Like ball and chain all on your ass. You never going to get out. Your next generation is going to be born in some fucked up shit. And it's going to be like one of them dystopian movies where everybody wearing white clothes and nobody can have more than 2 kids and everybody's quiet. And your kid's fucking job is decided for them at birth and all that weird shit. That's the world that they want. And if it's not that, then it's going to be a world with AI. But it's for the human beings, it's still going to be something like that. And that's for the people who are compliant and the people who do what they're told. The people who don't do what they're told are going to go missing, or they're going to be living in the slums. I'm looking deep into the future. I don't waste time, and I don't sugarcoat, and I don't slow down because, you know, how can you think that far? How can you know that? I'm jaded. So at this point in time, my pattern recognition has taken my brain to a whole nother level, and I no longer entertain all these rest stops or all these points of convenience or comfortability or try to give somebody the benefit of the doubt. Fuck all that. They've shown me time and time again what their ultimate agenda is. They've shown me time and time again what their ultimate motivation is. Whether it's on a fucking TED Talk or some kind of stage where they get sit down and they talk about all kind of shit. Like when Peter Thiel got on a fucking interview recently and he got asked a question, did he want human beings and the human race to endure? And that nigga couldn't say yes. But you want this motherfucker to have control over our lives and influence over us. And why the fuck would you want him to have any influence over us in any fucking way if by and large, in generally, he considers that human beings just in general should not persevere as a race, as a species? I'm not giving that nigga the benefit of the doubt of nothing. And everybody who is his friend and everybody who is with him is immediately under my sus detector, in my sus list. Everybody on the Epstein flight logs, and everybody who could be assumed to have been on that bitch or was just smart enough not to talk to him and went to a more discreet nigga and who's doing something worse than Epstein. Like all of them are implicated. You know why they're all implicated? You should not have any favorite billionaires and millionaires. You know why they're all implicated? Because none of them are us. They don't live out here. They don't think like us. They don't feel the shit that we feel. They don't embrace the philosophies and the mindsets that we have. They make up their own shit. They live in bubbles. Bubbles high up in the clouds, completely separated from the rest of us. That's how most of them get like this. They get fucking crazy because they drown in all of this weird their brains are on a whole they're thinking and doing shit on a whole different level and in a whole different way because they have too much money, they have too much free time, they have too much power, It corrupts. Power corrupts, especially weak-willed people, especially delusional people. A lot of these people think that they're gonna have some form of artificial godhood when AI is perfected. That's a delusional motherfucker if I've ever heard about one. Ain't nobody becoming no fucking god by using some shit that you can make here on Earth. But they believe that shit. They say that shit out loud. At Davos and on them in the World Economic Forum, all these types of niggas are colluding in various ways and on various fronts to oppress us and take our civil rights, take our and suspend or take our rights, our human rights and our civil rights and our consumer rights, and bombard us to the point of complete exhaustion so we can cave in and then beg them for a solution, and then they're gonna bring in, what's the word, pluribus de unum. That's the little saying, right? That basically what that means is order out of chaos, right? And that's their whole strategy. That's always been their strategy. Conspiracy guys who looking at stuff, they know about 9/11. They know about various false flag operations and things that's going on. Pluribus de unum doesn't just apply to some big ass buildings falling down. It applies to everything that they do if you pay attention. Whether that shit is about video games or that shit is about consumer rights in another area, like at Target when it was making ESG scores and shit, and it was forcing the rainbow clothing and the satanic clothing in the kids section and all that weird shit. That's all pluribus de unum. They create confusion, they create chaos, and it's going to be your responsibility to stand up and resist and let them know that we're not having that shit, or you're going to sit there and be apathetic and be clandestine or be passive and let them do shit. And by the time they're finished doing all that chaotic stuff, you're going to be in a situation where you have no power and you have to rely on them and their solutions. That's what they like. That's what they like, because every time they do that, they take something from you. So if everybody started the game of life, let's say humanity started the game of life with like 50 different innate civil rights and human rights. And then these niggas came along and it was like, we can't have that. I want to control people. I want to control the destiny of humanity's race. I want to become an AI god. I want to do this. Right? So I can't do that if these niggas have all these rights. And they started doing the pluribus de unum and applying that shit in various creative ways. And every time they did it, some catastrophe happened where they use your rights and they say some shit about your rights. Like, if you didn't have these rights, or they'll implicate the rights. If they don't say it directly, then they'll implicate that if you didn't have these rights, or if you had a different set of rights that replace these that I more directly control or that are attached to me, this whole situation could have been avoided because I'm in charge. That's what they do, right? That's what they did with 9/11. That's what they do with various instances, and that's what they're gonna do with this game. Just like they were saying, and just like they're already doing right now, they're showing you that they don't want you to have anything. The more agency you have and the more freedom you have, the harder you are to control. So that goes for where you live. That's why everything's getting expensive. That goes for where you live, the food that you eat, the clothes on your back, the car that you drive, the job that you work, and the entertainment that you consume. It includes all of that shit. So if you, for example, right now, what are a lot of people doing because so many games are garbage? What are a lot of people doing? They get their bag, like that bag that I have over there, and they go. What they do is they call they go into their backlogs. That's my backlogs right there. Those are games that are physical discs, and I can play them in the old consoles. Right? I don't need no fucking Wi-Fi. I don't need no fucking updates on my system or none of that bullshit. I put the game in, I can play the game. That's a level of control that they don't have over you. That's a problem. They see that as a problem immediately. The fact that you can do some shit like that, that's a problem. Because now that means you're less reliant on me, and I have less control over you and what you do. So now I'm upset because my whole goal is to control your ass. So you doing shit outside of my control, outside of my authority, upsets me. This is how they think. This is how they move, and this is how they act. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. They've already very much systematically fucked up everything else. They're coming for the entertainment. They're here for the entertainment. They basically chewed up Hollywood and shit that out, and now that's a big ass shit log over there that nobody wants to touch. The music industry has never really been its own its own thing. It's always been owned and controlled for a long time now. You can't even produce music over a certain degree of hertz because they only want music that is gonna entice you or inspire emotions in you, but not healing and not positive stuff. That's why they don't put out positive music and they don't allow certain hertz frequencies, because certain hertz frequencies literally sound resonates with the water and the fluids in your body that make up your body, and they can heal you. They don't want you healing shit. They want you to listen to music, be put into some kind of trance like state, or be angry, but not heal. No healing, right? So the music industry has always been on that bullshit. The last person to talk about that publicly, who did die afterwards, was XXX Tentacion. He said this frequency programming is mind controlling the music, and then his ass got killed. He didn't fucking die. He got killed, right? So now they coming for the video game industry. That's what they're doing now, right? Because this is basically what I'm seeing this as is the last bastion. This is the last bulwark. This is the last bastion that we as consumers have to stand up against these motherfuckers. If we don't stand up, you know what's gonna happen? They're gonna turn this gaming space into some shit that like the villains from that movie. Ready Player One. Remember the IOI company or iOS or IOI company? And they had like millions of people getting it. It was virtual reality, but they had millions of people, cheap, conformist motherfuckers, getting into the game to win the game and steal the rights of the game or find the ultimate treasure so they can control the whole game. Remember the fucking templates they were showing in that one scene where they had the screen of how the game would look after they got rights to the game, and they had all these fucking ads and shit all over the screen, so you can't even see in a straight line and play the game. It's fucking ads all around the border of the screen. Every time you click on some shit or do some shit, they trying to advertise you on something, or they trying to get you hooked on something, or trying to get you to spend some money. This is how they want shit to go. I remember not too long ago they showed some blueprints or some schematics on how some certain PlayStation niggas, whoever the fuck they are, some assholes who work in PlayStation, were talking about how they want the games to be in the future, and these niggas used an illustration of God of War, and it was like a scene. It was that scene where you run into the fuck is the name of that big ass snake, the Ouroboros, the big snake, right? It's probably a different name in Norse mythology is a different name. I forgot. Or maybe it is Ouroboros, but that's what it is anyway. It's the big ass snake that's technically infinite and it can wrap around the world and bite its own tail. That's Ouroboros. Okay? That's another name for that entity. Ouroboros comes up in the game. Fucking Kratos and Atreus is on a little boat and they see him. And then in the diagram, in the little picture that they showed, it had that same scene, but it was black and white. It was just a drawing. And then it had this little ad pop up, and it was like, buy this shield right now. Like, so as soon as you get to the scene, an ad pops up. Spend a couple extra dollars and you get this little shield. So now when you progress through the rest of the scenes, you'll be more protected because you bought this little shield real quick. And they just had that fucking ad pop up in the game. This is a single player game. That was a real schematic that was submitted by somebody, and that PlayStation was genuinely thinking about, and I bet they still genuinely thinking about doing some shit like that. You know how I know? Because they still moving for our consumer rights. So if they willing to take motherfuckers physical discs, they're willing to do some shit like that. So now imagine a time where you playing the game, and somewhere throughout the game, it's a single player game, you're not playing with nobody. Somewhere throughout the game, a fucking ad appears on the screen. It's telling you to buy a certain gun or buy a certain thing that you cannot get in the game. And then imagine later on while the FBI is listening to your fucking chats while you playing the PlayStation, that you say some that they don't like or whatever, and they got some flipping ass rules on the PlayStation terms just like they got on YouTube terms, right? So they got some flipping ass rules that they can apply to anything, some gray ass, murky ass rules that are not they're not strict and clearly defined, because if they clearly define them, they know that you're going to figure out a way around it. So they're not going to do that. They're going to leave them gray and murky and fluid so that they can just stick them to your ass at any point in time when they find you to be an inconvenience, right? So you playing the fucking single player game online, you need a fucking online connection to play a single player game. The single player game has no fucking disc. An ad pops up in the game. You say some shit on your party connection or whatever, or the FBI is listening to your bitch ass. And I'm calling you a bitch because somebody who's in this situation right here is a bitch. You had every point in history, you had a whole lot of time to stand up against this shit, and you let games get to this point in time. So whoever this person I'm making up my analogy is a bitch. Uh, you say something on your fucking thing, you in the party chat, and you just so happen to say something you don't like the president, or you don't consent with, or you don't like how games are doing, or you don't, it's something that they don't like, right? It don't have to be specific, like I said, something that they don't like. They turn your fucking game off. Didn't they just do that shit? They've shown us many times. PlayStation has done this a fucking bunch of times already. Going into niggas' libraries where the games are already saved and logged after having been purchased or acquired by a customer and taking that shit out or revoking access. That's gonna be your future. That's gonna keep fucking happening to your ass, and it's gonna be able to be affecting you for all forms of media if you let these various pushes on our consumer rights continue, and they just get worse. They roll. It's like a snowball going downhill, right? They just get bigger and more powerful and worse and more egregious every time these niggas make another step. It's some more shit and it's worse than the last time. That's why that one guy even came up with the movement, which is a great movement, and I hope it succeeds, called Stop Killing Games. But more work than that's going to need to get done. We're going to need to put up real resistance. Otherwise, that is your future. And you're not going to be able to enjoy, regular, real fucking life because it's hard as fuck to live out here. And you're not going to be able to enjoy your entertainment. What kind of world is that? Can you even imagine? People will be losing their fucking minds. All the warehouses going to get burned down. Or everyone's going to cave in and become some apathetic pussies. And we're going to lose all our fucking rights. And for anybody to stand up against the system is basically for it to be like a death wish, or that's gonna be like a plot of a movie because it's gonna be so fucking dramatic. It's gonna be so much shit going on because they're gonna have us literally nailed down to the floor because we allowed them to get us to that position because we didn't resist. We didn't resist at no step in the way. We didn't resist at no point in the process. So now they got us down under such lock and key that resistance is futile or is asinine at this point. You're going to need consistent miracles to get through any form of resistance with these niggas. That's not a world you want to be in. I don't think you want to be in that world. So what we need to do is we need to teach people a lesson about these games, right? We need to do one of these because that's what they do to us, right? Just like when they started coming for people's living expenses and fucking up people's electric bills and fucking with people's health when they started installing data centers and people started rioting and getting mad and threatening to burn them down and destroy them. And it's some fucking, I forgot who the fuck it was, but some dumbass rich person tried to like gain sympathy from the audience by showing his baby or doing some shit where his baby was in the camera. Motherfucker, you fucking up my babies. How you put a damn data center next to my house, drove up my bills, and now that shit is emitting some kind of frequency that's making me and my children sick. And you want me to have, you expecting me to have some kind of sympathy or slow down or temper my aggression because you show me your baby? Your baby gonna grow up to be doing some shit like you. Cause that's your fucking child. I don't give a fuck about that baby just like you don't give a fuck about my babies. Fuck all that. Right? And they try to do their little different manipulation tactics. What you need to remember is, at the end of the day, these niggas don't give a fuck about you. The only time they care about you is to use you as a resource. And they use you as a resource like somebody who uses a resource that doesn't care about that specific resource for real. Once that shit is exhausted, they're just gonna cast you aside like an old pair of socks and leave your ass to wither and die and get dirty or whatever and get lost. They don't give a fuck about you. They just only see you in moments to be used as resources. Whether that's fucking Elon Musk pretending to be cool on the internet or somebody with no fucking internet presence who's moving shit in the background like Larry Fink and Peter Thiel. Fuck them niggas. All of them. All of them. This is the behavior that you need to have towards them niggas from now on until this issues are resolved. If this is not how you're approaching it, you are approaching at a disadvantage because that's like entering a fight where somebody has killing intents towards you and they have all the advantages over you. They have weapons and all kind of shit, and you're not trying to harm them, or you only want to knock them out. Fuck all that, because if they get one successful attack on you with all the weapons that they got, your ass is cooked. You better be coming locked in. You better be taking every chink in the armor. You better fucking hit that bitch. Every time he fumbles or mess up, you better counter strike that nigga. Every time, every time. That's how we need to approach this for this gaming and for everything else. But mostly about this gaming right now is what this video is about. We're not going to get through this by being apathetic or being clandestine or being passive and letting this shit go. Vote with your wallets. Speak with your money. Speak with your presence. Use the power that you have as a consumer. Because as a consumer, you have all the power. They don't decide shit. They have no power. Even if they pass some rules or make some shit, if you don't participate, if you don't engage, if you don't volunteer, if you don't give your resources, what can they do? And what does it matter? It doesn't fucking matter. That's the point. So that's how we need to approach this, and that's what I have to say about consumer rights and various things, but specifically matters about the video game industry right now that's going on with this diskless bullshit. Like, and for all of you people out there, just a little ad note, all you dumbass niggas out there, and I'm calling you dumb because I'm pissed at all these slow consumer brain conformist niggas. I'm so sick of y'all. I'm so sick of y'all, bro. Y'all fucking disgust me. You fucking disgust me. How long has this information about GTA 6 been out? That shit has been conspired to be, and all kinds of information that's come out proving that shit was gonna be woke garbage for a cool minute now. A whole lot of shit's been coming out. I knew about this shit, I think at least a year ago or 2 years ago, that the fucking game studio was compromised. All the niggas who were responsible for GTA were removed. How and who replaced them? A bunch of dyed-haired freaks, DEI motherfuckers that Larry Fink, and his changes to the rules on how niggas should get hired, they're the only reason that them niggas got in there. And they not there because they love GTA. They said when they got in there that the whole industry or the whole the production area where everybody was working felt like it had frat boy energy, and they didn't like it, and they had to change it. And now they done away with that. They done away with that. That was the shit that was there for all the previous GTAs. Every previous GTA that you enjoy, all the good shit that you can quote from a GTA game, all the good experiences that you can remember from a GTA game came from those niggas. The frat boys, who they removed. And the leaders. The people who are creative directors. It's a grip of them. It's like 5 or 6 different dudes. I forget all the names right now, but it's like 5 or 6 different dudes that have been instrumental to the success of every GTA. All the funny ass characters, Trevor, all the story, all that shit came from these niggas. They removed all of them. So while you over there giddy for GTA, you're not gonna get GTA. You're gonna get impersonation. It's gonna be a false. Only thing that's GTA about that bitch is the fucking cover image in the title. That game is not GTA. Unless they put a whole lot of shit into that game before they got kicked out, and these woke niggas didn't take it out, you're not gonna have no GTA-like experiences in that bitch. It's gonna be something else. And all these niggas can say is, well, it's just $100. I have a job. That's not the point, you dumb bitch. We fighting for consumer rights. We trying to let these niggas know we don't appreciate their presence and their manipulation. That's the point. Think about something beyond yourself for like 5 fucking seconds. Maybe. If you did that, things would go a little bit better for everybody, including your dumb ass. Because even if it is fun to some degree, it's going to be woke as fuck. I don't know what you're expecting. I really don't understand what you think you're finna get out of this fucking hodgepodge of the remnants of a fucking dissected corpse of GTA that they're shoveling out here without a fucking disc for $100 fucking dollars or $120 or whatever the fuck it is. We've had GTAs, every fucking GTA before. The shit that they're removing and putting behind a higher cost used to just be part of the game. So they're reducing the experience to charge you more money while also offering you a lesser product. And you're trying to defend it? You're dumb. You're dumb. And I hope you buy the game. I hope you buy the game and waste your fucking money and get fucking disappointed. I hope that's what the fuck you do. Even though you're going to give them some money and I don't want them to have no fucking money, maybe that's what you need. Maybe that's what you need. For a lot of people in the world right now, GTA 6 is the biggest event, right? The only things people are looking forward to right now as far as the end times and what's going to happen towards the end before the big change or before the end of humanity is GTA 6 is on that fucking list. We need to all play GTA 6 before this shit goes belly up. A lot of people didn't make it here because GTA 6 took fucking 30 years to come out. Rest in peace to all those people. But don't be a fucking consumer goyim. That's what you're behaving like, and that's what they think you are. And that's what you validate that their thoughts about you, you validate them every time you behave like this and you just consume product. Just give me it. I just need the next product. Every time you do that shit, you validate how they treat you. They treat you like shit. They shitting on your consumer rights. They abusing your trust. They taking shit out your library that you already bought. That's because they see you as fucking consumer pigs who will do whatever the fuck they want you to do. If you stop behaving like that, maybe we can make some changes. Okay, so I just put that last little bit in there. Thank you for watching the video.